Good morning, students. Yesterday, we have discussed about the hydrolysis of salt. In that, the types of salt. These are the four types of the salts. The salts derived from the strong acid, strong base. The salt derived from the strong acid, weak base. The salt derived from the weak acid, weak base. And the salt derived from the weak acid and the strong base. These are the four types of the salts. Then, what's meant by the hydrolysis? In the last period, we have discussed about the hydrolysis. The hydrolysis of salt is defined as the reaction in which the cations or anions or both the ions of salt react with the ions of water to produce acidity or alkalinity or sometimes the neutrality of the solution. That process is called as the hydrolysis of salt. Now today we will discuss about the hydrolysis of salts of strong acid, strong base, hydrolysis of salt, strong acid, weak base, hydrolysis of salt, weak acid, strong base, and the hydrolysis of salt, weak acid, weak base, one by one. Now, initially, we will see the hydrolysis of salt, strong acid, and strong base. In this case, yesterday I have given the example of the sodium chloride, that is the salt of strong acid and strong base. The NaCl is the salt of strong acid HCl and the strong base NaOH. HCl is the strong acid while the NaOH is the strong base. And from that, with the help of the strong acid HCl and the strong base NaOH, the salt NaCl will be formed, which is known as the salt of strong acid and the strong base. Then, when this salt dissolves in the water, it dissociates completely into its ions. That is, when this NaCl is dissolved into the water and it forms the Na plus and Cl minus ions. In this aqueous medium, the dissociation of the sodium chloride is completely by forming the sodium ion and the chloride ions. The ions of sodium and chloride have no tendency to react with the water. This is because the possible products, that is NaOH and HCl of the such reactions are they strong electrolytes and dissociate completely in the aqueous solution. When this Na plus and the Cl minus, it reacts with H2, it gives the strong acid HCl and the strong base NaOH. And both of these, the HCl and NaOH, they are the strong electrolytes and dissociate completely into the aqueous solution. This HCl in the aqueous medium and NaOH in the aqueous medium, that is the strong acid and the strong base. These are, and HCl and NaOH when reacts with water. HCl and NaOH when reacts with water. In this process, this water dissociates into the hydronium and H2O plus the Cl minus Na plus and the OH minus ions. Thus, the reactants and the products are the same. This implies that the neither products are the same. This implies that the cations nor anions of the salt react with water and or there is no hydronium hydrolysis is carried out and equality of hydronium ion is equal to the hydroxyl ion. This hydronium ion and the hydroxyl ion. The equality of these two, that means there is no reaction between the water molecule and the Na plus and Cl minus ions. Means what you mean by the hydrolysis? That is the salts of the ions of the salts of the strong acid and the strong base of both the cations and the anions when react with the water and forms alkalinity or the basicity, acidity or the basicity, or sometimes it may be the neutrality. It gives, that process is called as the hydrolysis. It may be concluded that the salt of the strong acid and the strong base does not undergo the hydrolysis process. Then about the next salt, that is the strong acid and the weak base. In this case, the strong acid and strong base, we have taken the example that is the sodium chloride is the salt of strong acid and the strong base. Now we will see about the salt of strong acid and weak base. That is CuSO4. CuSO4 is the salt of strong acid and the weak base. This is formed, that is the strong acid H2SO4 and weak base CuOH twice. H2SO4 is the strong acid while the CuOH twice is the weak base. When CuSO4 is dissolved into the water, it dissociates completely as salt chloride CuSO4. When it dissolves in water, it gives Cu and SO4 minus ions. Cu plus and SO4 minus in the aqueous medium. हे जे आयन्स जे आहे ज्यावेळेस हा CuSO4 वॉटरमध्ये डिझॉल्व्ह होतो याचं डिसोसिएशन जे आहे हे कम्प्लिटली होत असलेलं आपल्याला आढळून येत असतं आणि हा सॉल्ट कशापासून तयार झालेला आहे द स्ट्रॉंग ॲसिड सल्फ्युरिक ॲसिड अँड वीक बेस CuOH twice copper oxide, that is copper hydroxide is the weak base. The SO4 ions of the salt have no tendency to react with the water because the possible product of H2SO4 is strong electrolyte and the reaction of copper ions with the OH minus ions form unionized CuOH twice. Therefore, the hydrolytic equilibrium for the CuSO4 can be written as, that is Cu plus ions plus SO4 minus ions when it gives the react with the water molecule, the equilibrium reaction, that will be formation of CuOH twice plus then the 2H2O will be formed in the aqueous medium. In this case, the tendency due to the presence of excess of water, hydronium ion, the resulting solution of CuSO4 becomes acidic and turns the blue litmus red. Means the formation of sparingly soluble CuOH twice by hydrolysis makes the aqueous solution of CuSO4 turbid, and due to that, if the H2SO4, that is the H2O, H3O ions are added, the hydrolytic equilibrium shifts to the left and the turbidity of the CuOH twice will be dissolved to give a clear solution. And to get the clear solution of CuSO4, the addition of H2SO4 would be required. Means, in this case, what's happening here? The solution becomes the acid. हे जी हायड्रोलिसिसच्या प्रोसेसमध्ये काय होतं, ते सोल्युशन पाण्यासोबत वॉटरसोबत रिएक्शन झाल्यानंतर ते ॲसिडिक आहे, बेसिक आहे का न्यूट्रल आहे हे दर्शवण्यासाठीची जी प्रोसेस जी आहे, दॅट प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड ॲज द हायड्रोलिसिस ऑफ सॉल्ट. In this case, in the hydrolysis of salt, strong acid and the weak base, that we have taken the example that is the CuSO4, which is formed by the strong acid, the H2SO4 and the weak base CuOH twice. Then the second one, the salt, that is the salt of weak acid, strong base. तीसरा जो salt जो है, that is the salt of weak acid and the strong base. Weak acid and the strong base. आता ही जे तिसरा एक्झाम्पल, तिसरा टाइप जे आहे हायड्रोलिसिसचा of the salt. In this, the CH3COONA is the salt of weak acid and the strong base. In this case, the weak acid, the acetic acid is here, CH3COOH, and the strong base is the NaOH. NaOH का क्या है? Strong base. And this is the weak acid. Acetic acid हा weak acid आहे आणि NaOH हा strong base. मग यांच्यापासून बनलेला कुठला सॉल्ट आहे? That is the CH3COONA. That is the salt of weak acid and the strong base. In this case, when the CH3COONA is the salt of strong weak acid strong base, when dissolved in water, it dissociates completely. That is CH3COONA. When it dissolves completely, it gives CH3COO and Na plus ions. हे जे आहे हे आयन्स आपल्याला या ॲक्युअस मीडियम मध्ये हे तयार झालेले आपल्याला आढळून येतात. दॅट इज द CH3COO minus plus Na plus in the aqueous medium, and water dissociates slightly into this. That is, आता पाण्याचं dissociation जे आहे, in this case water dissociates H2O gives H2O liquid, dissociates into the ion formation, that is hydronium ion H3O plus plus OH minus ions will be formed when the dissociation of water is taking place. Means the solution of CH3COO contains the Na plus and hydronium ion, CH3COO minus ions, hydroxyl ions, and the Na plus ions of the salt have no tendency to react with the OH minus ions, that is the hydroxyl ions of the water. Since the possible product of the reaction is NaOH, strong electrolyte. Strong electrolyte हा कुठला तयार होतो? That is the NaOH. Hence, on the other hand, the reaction of the CH3COO minus ions of salt with H2O ions form the water product unionized weak acid, that is the CH3COOH. That is, when this CH3COO minus ions when react with the H2O, it gives the CH3COOH, that is the weak acid is formed. Into this equation, we can say that this CH3COO minus ions जे आहे हे या पाण्यासोबत रिॲक्ट होऊन weak acid CH3COOH हा तयार झालेला आपल्याला आढळून येतो. And thus the hydrolytic equilibrium for this CH3COO ion is, that is the CH3COONA plus H2O gives CH3COONA plus H2O gives the CH3COOH plus strong acid NaOH ionization होईल Na plus आणि OH minus ions. म्हणजे hydrolytic equilibrium जे आहे, this will be formed like this way, and as a result of excess of hydroxyl ions produced, the solution becomes basic. The solution of CH3COONA is therefore the basic in nature. हा कशामध्ये आला? हा बेसिक इन नेचर. म्हणजे हा जो सॉल्ट जो आहे, हा सॉल्ट आपल्याला त्याच्या बेसिक नेचर मध्ये आपल्याला आढळून येत असतो. Okay, then similarly the salt of weak acid and the weak base, that is salt of weak acid and weak base. The example of this salt of weak acid, weak base is, that is, we have considered as when the salt of Ba, when the salt Ba of weak acid Ha and weak base BOH. Ba is the weak acid and the BOH is the weak base. When dissociates this, it will be formed B plus plus A minus, while this forms the B plus plus OH minus. And the hydrolysis reaction involves the interaction of both the ions of salt with the water, that is, heating ions B plus plus A minus with water, it gives the BOH plus H3, the salt of weak acid and the weak base. The solution may turn out the acidic, basic or neutral depending upon the relative strength of the weak base and the weak acid found in the hydrolysis. म्हणजे हे जे सोल्यूशन जे आहे, acidic बनेल, basic बनेल किंवा neutral बनेल, it will be dependent upon the strength, relative strength of the weak acid and the weak bases. Here we will stop. We will continue the next point in the next video.